Sister Maybelline says, I'm not going to build you a gaming rig without a solid-state drive.
Well, people underestimate the importance of solid states, particularly as a boot drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they're not that expensive now. And don't get me started on water cooling. Oh, man. Pony Island is a delightful indie video game that wants your soul.
Last week that we were talking about how much we loved the immersive hacking style of Superhot. But then we discovered another indie project that also came out of a game jam, Pony Island. And it's all about breaking fourth walls and generally messing with your brain.
And it's so creative in how it does this too.
Yeah, creative and infuriating. I've never been so simultaneously angry and intrigued.
Before we go any further, we should say that this is only a 2-hour game, and while we will be very careful to avoid spoilers, watching this review will undoubtedly have some sort of impact on your experience, so you have been warned.
The whole Pony Island journey is about discovery and surprises. When you begin, you're faced with a very simple platforming game featuring a pony. The game and overall visual style is old school and 2D. You eventually notice your own 3D hands. You're playing a person who is playing a game on an arcade cabinet.
After a bit of pony jumping, you're flat out asked to insert your soul to continue.
A bit of a theme with the machine you're playing on. It wants to drag you to hell.
Yes, but you do have an ally within the code. Through a quite sophisticated messaging system, you're given some very basic information and direction, but then you're left to figure out things for yourself. This might be mucking about in menus, poking holes in code that appears, or just working out passwords.
Pony Island looks complicated and even tedious on the surface, but the interface and puzzles are all very accessible. Part of this is because you mostly only use the mouse. So there isn't really a need to scribble notes or do crazy math problems, even though it looks like you need to. Part of me always just felt like I was missing something. I played through this entire game with sus face.
That's what I love about it though, that mystery, it's such clever design. And I just love the way this game often throws you to the desktop and says, what are you gonna do now?
Yeah, there's a lot of ferreting around in menus as you face more frustration as the game literally falls apart as you try to navigate it. But then you have those eureka moments as well when you do discover the next step. It gave me the sense of the game itself being a character, baiting you and just trying to trick you. I don't know why this made me so angry, but I hated it for breaking all of the rules that make me feel safe and in control when I'm gaming, Bajo.
Yeah, I shook my fist at this game a lot. What are you up to? Cheeky game. It's broken up into 3 main acts. You quickly learn you need to delete some core files to defeat the game and free those who it has trapped. The first section takes this form of a very simple platformer, but once you get this laser of code that you can shoot out of your mouth, it actually gets pretty fun and pretty tricky.
Yeah, left mouse button makes you jump, and you need to hold it to spread your wings. Right mouse button fires your laser. But it's harder than it sounds. I found I really had to separate my brain processes, Bajo, one for jumping and then one for attacking.
Yeah, I yelled again at the screen quite a lot when I failed at this very simple looking platforming section, but I never got frustrated. Nothing really overstays its welcome. And little hacking minigames break up the action along the way. I quite enjoyed these minigames, Hex.
All of these sections drove me insane. There's very little respite in this game, and it actually does a pretty good job of making you feel like you're losing your mind. Through the repetition and its patronizing tone and the way it constantly changes the rules and blocks your attempts to move forward.
That's the fun of it though, Hex. It's always trying to block you. You're fighting with the game itself. That's what I like about it.
Yeah. I did get some respite in Act 2, which sees it evolve into a kind of adventure game. Still filled with platforming sections, but at least these were a little bit more varied and I felt like I'd been given some reward for my efforts.
It's the third act that really starts to mess with you though. Set much later, you're presented with a modern butterfly chasing experience. Oh well. But the game itself doesn't expect you to progress as fast as you're going, and I really liked that. You feel empowered to break the game at this point. I also like how emotionally involved I let myself become to try and beat this game, Hex.
And that's really all we should say about this act in particular, but I will say it's very rare for a game to successfully surprise and troll us the way it did, Bajo.
Yeah, absolutely. Bravo! There's lots of cool little sections sprinkled throughout this whole game though. Such as this one, which lets you play out the platforming game as a text-based adventure. Great stuff.
Ah, that was my favorite part for sure. I kind of wish the whole game rested more heavily on that mechanic and less on the, menu screen trolling. But who else knows whatever surprises and secrets there are hidden in this game, lurking in the ones and zeros.
I really dug this, Hex. It's the sort of game that you want to play in one sitting. It's the right length, it's digestible, and the right price.
I had to learn a lot of lessons playing this, in that every single part of the experience is potentially part of the game. And after a lifetime of coming to terms with the way games present themselves, this was brain-breakingly bizarre. Even the loading bar is a puzzle at one point.
I also like that in the options menu, there was one just dedicated to free codes of this game that you can give to friends. What a nifty idea. I don't know if any of them still work, but it's just another great example of breaking the fourth wall, and there are stacks of those moments.
Yeah, and there was one point where the game was on a bit of a tilt because the machine you were playing on kind of broke at one point.
Yeah, crazy. The sound and visual design is so interesting too. A perfect mix of code and error sounds that PC users are probably quite familiar with. It's so great to see games like this coming out of game jams and then getting released. They're really experimenting with the art form.
Yeah, and it shows how important those kind of pressure-based think tanks can be.
Absolutely. Pony Island is a hot mess of satire and confusion. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, this game is twisted and it made me very angry, but it is also exceptionally clever. I absolutely recommend you play this for its incredible ideas and its uniqueness, but I also can't say that it's particularly fun or that I had a good time. I'm giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Hello? Hex, I think we're trapped.
Can someone please help us?
Help! Help! I haven't played Dark Souls 3 yet! Help!